Hi, I am April. We are here with Fadila and Kadira. We are going to talk about relationships and love. Okay, ladies, so let's start talking about men and consistency. What are your thoughts on men being consistent in the relationships, just with dialogue and everything?
So for me, I think that it's everything. It kind of sets the tone for longevity within whether it's a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or even a marriage. Men being consistent is kind of who's leading the tone.
Okay, yeah. I agree.
For me, I agree because consistency is everything that lays that foundation, that leads into trust, that leads into building and starting a life. Those actions also come with consistency, not just words. And so for me, I feel like whatever it is from the beginning when you're starting to date someone, you're looking at their actions and consistent. Are they doing what they say they're going to do? Are they showing up on time? Are they, not only saying what they're going to do, but are they actually doing it? And that consistency builds trust over time, which then leads into those longevities of those relationships. And if you don't have consistency, you don't have anything really. It's the foundation for everything that you're building within that relationship. And so, for example, for me, I'm in the dating scene right now. I'm on Bumble, I'm on Tinder. Tell me one site that I'm not on, And for me, it's just those guys who, you're trying to set up that initial conversation. Not that you're expecting it to, you talk every day, but you're expecting to try to set up some consistent dialogue, communication that you're going to connect and talk with this person that's going to eventually lead to you guys meeting, that's going to eventually try to grow.
Well, outside of even meeting, emotionally, I think it's important to have consistency because to me, it's like, if you're going to be up and down or all around, I don't know if I can open up to you.
And that's how you build trust. You're right.
Again, I don't know if I can tell you deep thoughts and what you do with them. Are you going to disappear?
Exactly.
Reach out every every other week? Or what is your foundation, or what is the path that you want this to be? If you're serious, I think
that's the key. Being serious.
Yeah.
If you're serious about something and you're willing to put in that time, you're gonna try to be consistent with your actions, with your words, intentional.
But I guess sometimes that's easier said than done. Let's say, because we all know life happens. So we all are busy. We all have things going on. So what if he potentially is serious, but he's just not consistent?
My theory on this is that you find times for things that matter.
Absolutely.
And if you want to build a relationship, if you truly want to build a relationship because you're serious, you will create some type of consistency. Whether that's, I'm not asking for a good morning text every morning. I'm thinking about my relationship with my husband, and we've been together now for, it's been like 13, 14 years. Okay. Met in high school. But of course, early on, there was consistency there because we would see each other every weekend.
Okay.
Or we would commit to talking to each other maybe before we went to sleep or something like that. And I knew what to expect. I think consistency is knowing what to expect out of that man, or
whatever you're trying to do.
Whatever,
with that relationship.
like if he's serious and he just wants to, I don't know the dating scene anymore now, but if
I'll tell you about it.
Let's say if I meet you and we feel like we hit it off and we've had a really good conversation, you're gonna want to keep that energy is going to build.
Exactly.
But what if he's doing all this initially? Because that happens in more relationships than not.
Sure.
That he does this for the first 3 months, 4 months, and then after a while he might ghost you for 2 weeks, and then fall back in and talk to you again, and then it's just kind of sporadic, and so things kind of fall off. But you've kind of enmeshed in it now because you guys have been talking for 3 or 4 or 5 months, and he's consistent. So at that point, you're invested. So do you just let the relationship
go? You figure out what's going on, really, right? You have a conversation and say,
Absolutely.
hey, are we, I go from talking to you every day, for the last 3 months, and then all of a sudden you ghost me. Where are we going with this relationship, maybe?
Yeah.
Let's lay the foundation. If you don't want to speak to me
every day.
Every day.
Then let's find out what is that. I think it's about communication with that other person, because I mean, if you're already doing something consistently for the first 2-3 months, and then all of a sudden you drop back and I don't hear nothing from you. I'm sorry, if I'm talking to somebody for that amount of time, I'm gonna want to check in with them. It doesn't have to be.
Or I'm gonna feel some kind of way.
I am gonna feel some kind of. Exactly, because it's just like, okay, you know, like what changed in our routine, you know? But you should also have that conversation. Hey, babe, you know, I've been working some late hours. I may fall off just for a little bit, but just let you know, I'm here. But I'm still gonna want to check in with you. I'm sorry, like, hey, how's your day? Quick text, whoop de whoop, and.
But see, you as a woman,
me as a woman,
want to do that.
Yeah.
Men don't necessarily think like that.
I feel like I don't know this life no more. But you know what? Okay, I'll tell you this. Me and my husband, we don't talk every day by text. Okay, when we're at home in the morning, hug, give kisses in the morning, to wave goodbye, and then when I see you at home, you know, we're having a conversation. But during the day, we had just brought this up because it was really funny, because I was like, I missed you today and you didn't even text me. And he said, because it takes a whole hour for you to text me back. I'm out of the moment, you know, and I'm like, you're right. Because I am thinking about you, but I'm not thinking about you enough to stop and text, and I should get better at that, or I should respond and just, you know, check in on you, and then if you text me back, try to provide that response really quick. But I get lost because of how busy my day is. So I use that as an example. I communicated what, you know, why I wasn't able to do it, but going forward, I could try to make the effort to, you know, reach out. So I would expect the same thing in a dating. Just communicate what's going on with you. If you need space because you're not sure if you want to be within this relationship, or you want to, you know, have some time to yourself, let me know. Because I could be doing the same thing instead of being worried about why you're not reaching out to you.
So it's very true. But that's just like, you know, communication. That's one thing. Then comes consistency with actions. You know,
that's true. Because you can say you love me all day, but then you're not putting forth the action to show me, or the effort to make time to communicate with me, or even spend time with me.
Exactly.
So what does that look like?
Well, that's another thing, to be honest, and that's something that I recently dealt with here. There was I feel it was a lot of other factors going on there, but being that, you know, I'm following my intuition and I'm giving this person the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not seeing any action. You're saying this, but no action. So there's this one guy who I was talking to for about a month, almost 2 months, to the point where I felt comfortable where he can go ahead and meet my family, you know. But at that point, still, I was unsure, you know. But I felt that I was the only one it was one-sided. I was the only one putting in that effort. You know, I'm the one inviting you places. You're saying you're going to invite me to these places and reach out, but you never do. So I feel I'm now doing all the work, you know. And then the last straw was, okay, are we friends, or is this heading somewhere, you know? And you text me with all the big that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But when we meet in person, you on silent, you know? So once again, you're saying what you're going to do, but there's no action to follow that up. To the point where when the last conversation we had face to face, I'm like, let's assess, like, okay, like, are we going to, like, do you feel like this can be a relationship, or you just want to be friends? You know, because everything you said about your text message, I don't see you doing. And you didn't do. You're silent, literally. So at that point, it's like, you're just talk. I'm going to have to go ahead and let that go. Okay. And I think with that conversation, it was mutual. But after that, I get a text message about whoop, 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 and I'm all, and I like you, I'm going to do all this. And then silent, nothing. But I was okay with that because I had already knew you're very inconsistent and I don't expect anything from you. So I'm going to let this, whatever it is, I'm going to let that go.
But could that have been, I guess, worked out with you establishing a level of boundaries with him? Because not to say, no, after she see that he's inconsistent and he's doing that, coming back to the table and having a conversation with him, because he could be a very good guy and really do like her, but because of his experiences and environment and life and things like that, that happens.
That's a great point. And I told that to her. throughout this process that she was going through,
I kept her informed, yes.
I was the cheerleader behind him. I had liked the guy. I said, well, he might be nervous. Give him some time. See where, or try to, be proactive to make the move, or, whatever the case may be. But then as she was continuing to talk about him, he fell short because she would be communicating the information to him, like, hey, let's figure out what we want to do with this relationship. Let's get some type of consistency where we're hanging out, and he just couldn't deliver.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's not used to that. So it's not saying that he's wrong in the aspect, or that you are. It's just more or less that
showing him.
Yeah, if he's not used to that, really having that stern conversation of setting those boundaries. Hey, I've noticed that you're inconsistent. Call him out, and that you're doing X, Y, and Z, but this is what we established in the beginning. So how are you about let's coming together and, making something work? Let's do a compromise. And if you're still getting something less than after that, and then sever the relationship.
So then this goes to the question of, are you teaching someone how to... I know it's a two-way street. You teach someone how to love you. You teach someone how to be with you, and vice versa. But are you then overcoaching to create something that he's not going to be true to himself if he feels like he's got to do all these things?
But he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. So that's the thing. In any relationship, love relationship, friendship, family, you have to teach people how to treat you.
It's true, but it's also it's a two-way street though, whereas you can't be the only one communicating what you want from it.
That's true.
And then you're telling them what you need and want from it, but then you're getting nothing, no type of acknowledgement or action in return from this. Okay, but then nothing, So after you have told somebody how you need to be treated or what you're expecting, and you're setting up what you expect, those expectations, if they still are unable to follow them and there's no follow-up, then you just have to let it go.
So I guess the question is, how long do you wait till you know?
That's something every woman has to decide for herself. And see, and those things is what's your standard and what's your boundary. Yes. Not listening to your friends, not listening to your family. Exactly. You deciding, okay, if you want to continue with this, or if you don't have time and you want to let it go.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Yeah, that's right.
I absolutely agree. And that's the thing where it's just, you have to understand, how long are you going to let this person be inconsistent before you've reached your threshold? And for me, it's you get 3 tries.
She was striking them out.
No, literally, because it's just, I pride myself on communication. I think that if you're not talking about it, then how is the other person supposed to know? How can you fix things? It's that compromise. But once again, if it's one-sided and you're not willing to continue to put in that work and carry all the weight of this relationship, then it's time for you to just bow out.
And that's true.
I think for me, and this is where me and her kind of butt heads, I'm the aggressor in the relationship. My husband will tell you, I'm the aggressor, and I sought after him because I seen characteristics where I know what I wanted.
Okay.
And I was trying to project that onto her, and then hey, you just need to assert yourself in a way where you're, calling it out and saying what you want, and then leaving it up to him to bridge the gap. Where she's not that. She wanted a little bit of.
Yeah. You want the man to take the lead.
Exactly, because I feel that if you're used to taking the lead in all aspects of your life, and then you get someone who says, "I'm used to someone a little bit more submissive," as opposed to someone who's constantly being aggressive, going after things, then you take the back seat a little bit and let them lead. But if they don't know what they're doing and they're not driving, you can't just sit there.
But then you step up, have the conversation.
Yeah, there's a difference in it. It's certain things that I'm more aggressive with, asserting the fact that I wanted to be in a relationship with him. He didn't know it, but that was going to happen. It was going to happen. And again, I had grew from us being high school sweethearts, senior year sweethearts, to now having a functional family. It was a little different because it's a give-take. But early on, establishing the relationship, I sought after him. And that was different for me because usually I would let guys, woo me. And I was like, no, I'm about to, this is who I want to be with. I'm going to take over this initiative. And there's going to be times in our lives where, okay, you need to take the lead on certain things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not always going to be me doing all of that. And then it was a switch. It's a give take depending on the situation, but you want to establish, like, you want to control the narrative, and everybody's narrative don't look the same. Like,
absolutely, yes.
And I just think at the end of the day with that guy, you weren't compatible with him truly, if it felt like it was a force. If it, to me, if anything feels forced, or you're stepping out of someone that you're normally not, in a way where it's causing you stress, then I would not, or not even stress, but like doubt maybe.
I think, yeah.
Then I wouldn't do it.
I agree, but I think it still goes back to consistency, you know, where it's, you're telling me you're gonna do this, and then it doesn't happen, and then I have now that expectation that I'm expecting you to do this, and you don't do it, and there's no follow-up. It's like silent, like, oh.
But do you ask why? Why didn't it happen?
I mean, I did, yes, but there's no story behind it. There's no communication behind it.
Okay.
You know, so I think if they say they're going to do something, why is it my responsibility to follow up and see why you were not able to do it, instead of you telling me the reason why I was unable to do this was because, or this came up because.
But what you make of that, though? Because recently it's been a lot of men that have had that problem. You know, married men, committed relationships, all that stuff that has been having that problem with just being consistent or saying that you're going to do something and then not really following up with explanation when it doesn't happen and you're not following through. Like, what is that? What do you think it is?
I still think it's a breakdown in communication, but
where does that come from, though?
Repeat it out of, I'm trying to process it in a way that it would be like,
why are men doing this? Like, do you think it stems from family relationships, relationship with mother, relationship with father, how they grew up, their environment, what they've seen?
I think it's desire.
I think it's two things, to be honest. I think it's, number one, avoiding conflict. Like, men don't like confrontation. They also don't like someone nagging at them, telling them something repeatedly.
Okay.
However, when you decide not to tell them this, you know, or say, okay, I'm going to wait and let him bring it up, it never gets brought up.
Yeah.
It just gets swept under. Like, oh, she didn't mention nothing bad. So I'm free, I'm clear.
I don't know what it is.
So I think it's an avoidance.
I'm trying to think of an example, like, best described, and
I agree with you. Avoidance of conflict.
I 100% think that's what it is. And I don't know, because this is what I feel. I feel that there's no type of class or training for how to be in a successful relationship.
There isn't.
And that's not even your role model, your parents, or whoever you've seen in a relationship. That's their relationship, you know? Like, everyone's relationship is going to be different. So there's no real conversation around what a relationship is supposed to look like. How do you deal with conflict and things like that in a relationship?
That's true. I would say not everything, you know, when people look at, like, other people's relationship and they feel like, okay, this is the way that it should go, there is no guide.
There is no way that it should go.
I think it's based on, again, communication. If that's something that bothers you and you've got the courage to communicate it and not let it slide, then it's the men's role, or it should be their acknowledgement to try to fix it. But again, I don't know. I don't know.
That's the mystery. That's
I don't know.
We have to get some men in here so we can ask the question.
We do.
And what's my husband gonna say? I wonder. He'd be like,
yeah. But then I just feel like, once again, I think it always comes where I feel the woman is always the one pointing out what's wrong, what's the issue. They're always the one stepping up to say
issues. I create narratives that are based on my emotions and my perception. It may not be always the case.
Yeah, but it may not always be an issue to him.
Right.
No, just because that's your issue doesn't mean that that's his issue.
It should be clarified. It should be clarified. Like, so I think long enough in my relationship, because I used to have moments, you know, where I was getting mad and because I didn't understand his perspective, or I didn't understand why are you so calm about it. You know, it was this whole thing before we got married that I was like, what's our 5-year plan? I need to know what the plan is. And he's like, I don't have all the answers. Like, you about to get cut. I need the answer. Like, I need to know where we're going, how we're doing it. And what I had to realize about myself is like, it's okay for me to have that plan. Like, outside of like general boundaries created for the family or how our foundation of this relationship is going to work, it's okay for him not to know. But I want to know, and I have my own individual plan. And how I'd like to see things go, and work with you as those goals come up. You know?
But it's also okay that a lot of women don't realize, or they don't want to do, is for you to take the lead as a female in the relationship.
Oh, my husband loves that.
Because the thing is, the man is the head of the household. He's the dominant figure. He's the provider. But the woman does lead. That's why they say the man is the head and the woman is the neck. So she stirs the head because he's going to follow your suit. Just think about when you were dating. You know, what you did and what, you know, he said, and based on, well, baby, what you want to do? You know, well, whatever it is with you, let's go do it. You generally lead.
Well, it's the influence of power, though, that you, not even power, but establishing that. Like, for instance, again, my husband and I, we don't have, like, the traditional marriage, like head of household type thing. I am, like, the alpha provider, and he is the support role for me. Like, you know, he still works and has a great career. I'm just the one that is able to take more risks because he's more stable, if that makes sense. So I will have, you know, different opportunities where I will jump into leadership roles, and I may need him to be at home and take care of the kids or do more of the pickup, you know. And he's okay with that because he's like, this is for, as long as you know it's for a goal, a common goal of our family. Nobody's more in charge than the other. Everybody has a say. You know, we come together. If decisions need to be made, I'm never going to go out and make a decision.
But see, that's good. But it says a lot about that man that you're with. That means he's comfortable with himself.
But not everybody.
And that's the thing. And that's where it goes, where every relationship is going to be different. And that role, the role of like who's the provider, who's the, you know, support, that should be discussed between that couple who's in there, and it shouldn't look any way except for how you both agree want it to look. And I had this conversation with one of the guys that I was, two of them actually, who I was dating, and I said, you know, there's no set definition of what love is supposed to look like in a relationship. That's between you and that person, and it's not going to look like everyone else's. But what is your definition? What do you think are the responsibilities of a man and woman? Because I think that's something that's supposed to be compromised. And so they went through and said, okay, well, I think when it comes to work, maybe it should be 50-50, you know? When it comes to, like, deciding on the family, okay, maybe you can take that on more 60-40, you know? When it comes to the bed,
but how do you know? It's great to establish those things early on, but how do you really know that that person can commit to those
And that's
things?
the thing, you don't know. But I think that starting that conversation of how you want your relationship to look with this person.
At least they have an idea.
Exactly. And there is roles where I feel should be more on the man, such as opening that door for me or trying to reach out to me to establish, if I'm giving you my availability and time, you know, you should be more proactive to want to set something up and spend time with me. You know, I'm giving you my availability, you know. The bedroom, for example, it's just like, what does that look like to you? Should I be doing 50-50 or should I take a lead? It really, you know, like, and it's going to be different for everyone, you know. But my whole thing is, I have certain areas in my life where I expect a man to step up. You know, and if he can't step up for those, then maybe like.
But do you think that you can, before you even get into a relationship, do you think that you can identify those characteristics without even having the discussion?
I think there's foundations.
Like, no, I'm saying like.
I do.
Based on who that person is.
You can see if they're capable.
You can see if you can see it before you don't. Some things don't need to be communicated because a person with the right characteristics that you're looking for will already naturally have those attributes, right?
And that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, And how do you identify those characteristics? It's just based on just spending time with them.
It comes with time.
But it's not a conversation of, can you be consistent? Because then you might be pigeonholing a person into like demands that they don't know that they can meet, rather than just seeing who they are for who they are, and then just being like, okay, I don't think we can work because X, Y, and Z, and I don't think that there's anything that we can do to try to make that work, because that's not being true to who you normally are as a person. Or I mean, is that right?
You're absolutely right. Or, hey, I know this is the way he is. So if I know that he's not consistent, or I know that he's not going to text me every day, I might hear from him once a week or whatever. If I'm okay with that, that's what works for me.
It's like a trend analysis. You finding their trends, and you're not really. So when I think about like having the conversation to talk about your, the things that you need and vice versa, I think it creates like, in a way, it kind of pigeonholes you a little bit, or it holds you to something that you don't know if life is going to allow you to meet those demands.
True.
Like,
but I feel that's the risk though with every relationship, because you're not sure, you're not gonna know where it's gonna lead or what that person can mean to you. That takes time to develop. You're not gonna establish that, but it's that commitment to see where this is going to go and to be in it. I think that's the difference, because we won't know,
And if to be honest, if I could tell you guys going back into like first dating my husband and knowing that he met all my needs, he would have been cut because he didn't. But you know what? I said, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me see if I'm willing to go through the work with him.
Exactly.
That's fair. I don't think that he can do certain things, but I think that I can develop.
Yeah.
Or maybe certain situations are going to bring something out that maybe can negate the fact that was what my need was or my want was, because maybe that's not what I needed.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's how it is 100%. And so then I say that in the beginning when you're going into a relationship, whereas you're not going to know like everything that like this person is going to be able to give to you. You can have a set foundation. Like, is he like, okay, when I say set foundation, I mean like you're breaking, like absolutely it's a deal breaker.
Okay.
So.
But what is absolutely a deal breaker? Because depending on how you feel about the person, things might not be as deal breaking.
But I guess, do we have unrealistic expectations? That's the question.
I think some people do, absolutely. But like, say for example, what I say is a considerable deal breaker is like, say for example, he doesn't like kids. That's an absolute deal breaker for me, because
you have one.
You have a son. Exactly.
This factors into your.
Exactly. So when I say like absolute deal breaker, it's not like, oh, he's not 5'10" or he's not 6 foot. That is just
superficial.
I'm talking about those foundational characteristics where it's just like he's respectful. You don't want to disrespectful. If he's not, then that's an absolute deal breaker. How he treats other people, So does he have a job right now? That is not an absolute deal breaker, because everybody's in different situations in their life. So no, that's not an absolute deal breaker. However, has he not had a job for the past 5 years? Okay,
are you listening?
Right.
Deal breaker.
What's going on here?
How do you currently take care of yourself? I think that's fair.
Yeah,
it's just so many different.
Absolute.
So there's so many different conversations that could be stemmed from that one consistent question. That was a good one, because it brings up so many things that you don't really think about that factors into your selection, or why you choose somebody, or why don't you choose someone. And it's really all based on like individual like preferences. How far can you bend? Like really, how far can you bend to where you can sit there and say you can tolerate something versus being like absolutely not? Because I think it all comes back to like your self-awareness and like your like you understanding yourself. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know, that's a great line.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put these expectations on other people, because first the number one is self-love. Yeah. So when you love yourself, you have already established what it is in you that you want. So you're not having these expectations for the other person, because you're at the point to where you're good with them and you're good without them.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But I think the hopes is to find someone who gives you that sense of balance. Like, yes, I don't need you, but I want you. I want to be in this with you. And I think that's
But what if you get a situation where you don't want them, but then you do want them later on? You go through ebb and flows of relationships. Like some days I hate you, and then I'm like, but I couldn't
love you. I can't live without you. That's different.
But it gets hard in those senses because once you do establish that cute phase of dating and going through and understanding, like, wow, we're on the same page and everything is great. And then boom, yeah, exactly. What now? Like, you want to deal with the person again, and you're like, let me think back to the reasons why. So there was this exercise that I forgot the name of this little thing, but it was like, basically you can get through any conflict if you write it out in a sentence and then you dissect that sentence and say, you know, there was an example that was like, I should have never married this person. So this was the example that they used. So it was like, write out, I should have never married the person. Then you go back in place, I shouldn't have married this person at this time because, or I feel like this right now because, and then list your objectives of anger, this, that. And then take it back down and then say, okay, it wasn't right for me to marry this person based on what I wanted at that time. So what did you want at that time? And then now kind of get to the point where, you know, like, so it was like this conflict thing. And I think about that a lot when I have like just general conflicts. Like, I'm mad that this person's not listening to me, or my husband is not letting me have Pierre, which is my puppy that I'm supposed to be having, that I've been thinking about for a long time. Here's the reasons why, like, and trying to really figure out those components. So I think about, like, at the beginning where everything was all peachy keen, and then things change, and that now changes the dynamics. It changes your perspective and what you really think, or what you truly want once you've grown to a certain point. So, I don't know.
But I feel that's essentially what a relationship is. It's an ebb and a flow. There's going to be high conflict times, and then there's going to be amazing times. But that's what you work through in order to get to that,
it's
that
a cookie.
time.
It's a reward.
And I feel, to be honest, like, in today's dating, in today's world, we are so quick to just have the happy up. And then when it gets down, we're so quick to get out of it. And that's why, for me, I'm feeling so particular and taking my time and who I'm trying to, who I want for my life. Because for me, it's like, we got to be able to get through a full cycle. A happy, a sad, a angry, this, to get back to this point. We have to be able to do that in order to continue. And if you stop and you're ready to give up at this point, and you go do something else, then that's not what we're looking for.
Well, that's why they say date someone for all 4 seasons.
Yes.
So then you can kind of see how you act in the summer, how you act in the winter, what changes in the spring.
We are not the same. Like, we are not the same.
I love that.
Yes, you date someone for the 4 seasons, because we all have our moments, but it's uncovering that. That's the beauty.
It is beautiful when you see it, when you can get back to the circle of it, and then you're like, wow. We've gotten through some tough times. You laugh and you are able to reflect on those things. It's good, but it's hard by the end.
It's hard, but
that's a hard journey.
You got to come through that fog, and I feel that's the same thing with any relationship that you're in. Not only,
but I feel like you're dating a new person sometimes. Like, even in a marriage, we grow as people, right? And our interests in things change. Our perspective changes based on our experience. So I'm in a committed marriage with one person, but that might not be the same person that I met before. So I've got to now take this relationship and deal, just like me. I'm forever changing. He's got to figure out, like, is this girl crazy, or is this who I want to be with?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just fun in that regard, but it's hard. Me and my husband, we always talk about this, and I said, if we, for whatever reason, don't end up working out and making it, to when we're old, or if we're old and we cut ties then, I don't know what I'm going to do as far as jumping back in, because I'm going to expect someone to come in and pick up where we left off. And that's, that's never fair, right, for another person. So I'm like, it's going to be me and Pierre, and I'm going to be rolling around town, because it is hard to maintain relationships.
Yeah, it really is, but it's that work.
Well, we're going to end it there, ladies. So this has been a great conversation on consistency. So, okay, until next time. Bye.
Bye.